Ever get that feeling? Like you're just catching a glimpse of something bigger, something just beyond the everyday. Like maybe there's a whole hidden structure to reality.
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? And it's an idea that has echoed through, well, human history, right? This sense that there's got to be more to the world than what we see on the surface.
Totally. And today, we're going to take a deep dive into that idea. We're looking at this text that makes a pretty bold claim that Sanskrit, the ancient Indian language, might actually hold the keys to unlocking a whole different level of consciousness.
Yeah, it's a captivating idea, right? Not that we're saying, like, learn Sanskrit and suddenly you're dodging bullets like Neo in the Matrix or something, but it's more about how language shapes our understanding of the world. This text is suggesting that Sanskrit isn't just about communication, it's like a tool to actually reshape how we think.
Okay, now we're talking. So where do we even begin? How can a language have that kind of power?
Well, think about it this way. Everything we know, everything we experience, it exists within a certain framework, right? And the building blocks of this framework are these concepts: ontology, epistemology, and teleology.
Okay, I'll admit those are some big words. I don't think I'm throwing those around at a party anytime soon. How do those even relate to this idea of language shaping reality?
See, these concepts, they're constantly working behind the scenes, shaping our every thought, every perception, even if we don't even consciously realize it. Imagine reality like a giant, super complex recipe, right? Ontology is kind of like figuring out the ingredients list, like what is real, what actually exists. Epistemology is more like understanding the instructions. It's how we know what we know.
Okay, I'm following. And teleology, that's like,
Teleology, that's figuring out the why behind the recipe. What's the purpose, the ultimate goal?
so it's like these concepts are I don't know, the invisible scaffolding that holds up our entire understanding of the world,
Yeah.
even if we don't actually see the scaffolding itself.
Exactly. And what's truly mind-blowing is that the scaffolding, these really fundamental concepts that underpin reality, they're deeply intertwined with language itself.
So you're saying that the very words we use, the structure of language itself, can actually influence how we see what's real, how we make sense of everything around us.
Precisely. And that's where Sanskrit comes in. This text we're looking at, it argues that Sanskrit, with its unique structure and depth of meaning, can actually help us to hack this code, so to speak.
Hacking the code of reality? That sounds kind of intense, but how does that actually work?
Think of it like this. The text uses the analogy of a forgotten map. It suggests that Sanskrit, through these intricate connections between sound, symbol, and meaning, can actually guide us back to a lost city of knowledge, a way of understanding ourselves and the universe that's been, well, kind of obscured over time.
So it's not about like abandoning our modern languages, but maybe learning from how a language like Sanskrit approaches these like deeper concepts.
Absolutely. It's about expanding our understanding of what language can be, the power it holds to shape not just, our communication, but our very perception of reality.
Okay, I'm hooked. So how do we start reading this map? What makes Sanskrit so special?
Well, the text dives into some really fascinating specifics within the structure of Sanskrit itself. It uses the example of the sound and symbol, often written as a no, to kind of illustrate its point.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What's so special about this air sound? Why is it the key to unlocking this hidden structure?
Well, the text really delves into the etymology of air. It signifies motion, change, the very act of something coming into being. It's like deeply connected to the universe itself.
So A isn't just a random sound. It's like the sonic representation of the universe coming into being.
Exactly. It's about understanding that in Sanskrit, even the building blocks of language are infused with deeper meaning. And it doesn't stop there. From A, we get the concept of A. Are you familiar with that term at all?
I've come across it, yeah. Usually translated as cosmic order, right?
Yeah.
Like the underlying harmony and balance of the universe.
You got it. The text highlights how A emerges from Sat, which represents pure being, that unchanging reality that precedes everything else.
So Sat is like the foundation, the unmanifested source. And from that, everything else kind of unfolds according to this principle of Ta, this cosmic order.
Precisely. And this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. The text argues that this principle of Ta, this flow of existence, is something we can actually tap into and align ourselves with. And that's where the concept of dharma comes in.
Dharma. Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Dharma is often translated as duty or righteousness, but it's more nuanced than that, right?
It is. The text really emphasizes that dharma isn't about following, rigid rules. It's about recognizing and aligning ourselves with this natural order, this flow of Dar in our own lives.
That's fascinating. So by understanding these concepts embedded in the very fabric of Sanskrit, we can start to perceive and interact with reality in a whole new way.
Exactly. It's like Sanskrit is providing a different set of lenses through which to view the world, one that reveals deeper layers of meaning and interconnectedness.
This is already blowing my mind, and we're just scratching the surface here. It's clear that Sanskrit has a lot to teach us about language, about reality, and about ourselves.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting. The text, it goes on to explore how this whole understanding of ta and dharma, it's not just some abstract concept. It actually plays out in the very structure of language itself.
Okay, now you've got my attention. How does that work?
Well, the text dives into this idea of semantic onomatopoeia.
You're going to have to break that one down for me.
Yeah, it sounds kind of complicated, but it's actually pretty intuitive. Essentially, it means that the sounds in Sanskrit, they're not arbitrary. They often mirror, like, the very essence of what they're describing.
Okay, I think I get it. But do you have an example?
Yeah, totally. The text gives this great example with the sage Bugu, who's associated with fire.
Okay, what about him?
So his name, Bugu, actually echoes the crackling of flames. It's like the sound of his name itself embodies the very element he's connected to.
Whoa, that's actually kind of amazing. It's like the language itself is trying to tell us something deeper, trying to connect us to these fundamental forces.
Exactly. And the text argues that this is just like one example among many. Sanskrit is full of these intricate connections where sounds and symbols, they hold this like profound philosophical, even cosmological significance.
So by paying attention to these subtle layers of meaning within these words, within the sounds themselves, we can gain a whole new level of understanding.
Precisely. It's like, imagine we've been looking at this beautiful, intricate tapestry, but we've only been seeing the surface threads, right? Sanskrit, according to this text, it allows us to actually unravel the intricate patterns and the hidden meanings that are woven into its very essence.
Wow, this is completely changing how I think about language.
Mhm.
It's not just about communicating information, it's about transmitting wisdom, about connecting us to something much, much bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And the text actually, it goes even deeper than that. It explores this really interesting concept of ontological bloom. Essentially, it's about how meaning can gradually unfold and reveal itself over time, kind of like a flower blossoming.
Okay, now I'm really hooked. How does ontic bloom work with Sanskrit?
Well, remember how we were talking about Sat representing pure being? That unchanging reality that precedes everything else?
Right, like the foundation.
Right. So from Sat emerges Bhava, which refers to becoming, to the manifestation of things in the world.
So Sat is like the unmanifested source, and Pava is everything that comes into existence.
You got it. And the key here is that Pava, that whole realm of becoming, it operates within the framework of Eta, that cosmic order we were talking about earlier.
So even though things are constantly changing, constantly coming into being, there's still an underlying order to it all.
That's exactly the point the text is making. It's not chaos, it's a dynamic flow, but it's governed by Eta. And Sanskrit, through its structure, through the depth of meaning embedded within it, it might just allow us to tap into this understanding more easily.
It kind of reminds me of that aha moment.
Yeah.
Like when you finally grasp a really difficult concept and suddenly everything just clicks into place. It's like Sanskrit provides that framework for understanding those aha moments in a way that our everyday language might not.
That's a great way to put it. And the text even suggests that this understanding, it's actually reflected in ancient Indian thought, particularly in the Vedas.
The Vedas, those are the ancient Hindu scriptures, right?
Right.
How do they connect to all of that?
Yeah. Well, think of them like a treasure chest of insight into this way of thinking, right? The text talks about the Azis, the sages who received and transcribed these ancient texts.
Okay, and how do the ACs fit into all this?
So the word A itself, it's actually connected to that sound, signifying motion and change. Azis were seen as those who had mastered, gaudy the flow of time and existence.
So they weren't just wise people. They had this really deep understanding of the underlying principles governing reality itself.
Exactly. And their insights, those insights that are preserved within the Vedas, they were often expressed through Eka's poetic hymns meant to convey these profound truths about Eta and our place within it.
It's incredible how these concepts, they all just weave together like a tapestry of meaning. woven from the very fabric of the language itself.
And that's the beauty of what we're uncovering here. By tracing these connections, by really exploring the deeper layers of a language like Sanskrit, we gain this whole new perspective, not just on language itself, but on the very nature of reality.
It's almost like Sanskrit is offering us like a different operating system for our minds, a way to process information, to experience the world in a way that's more aligned with these deeper truths.
That's a fantastic analogy. It's not about, discarding our modern languages or anything. It's about expanding our capacity to think, to perceive, to connect with the world around us in a way that maybe we didn't even realize was possible.
It's like we've been handed this whole new set of tools, for understanding, like not just the universe out there, but our place in it.
That's a great way to put it. And the text, it goes even further. It explores how this whole understanding, it could actually have a real impact on like how we live our lives. It highlights this concept called eight.
Eights? Okay, that's a new one. What's that all about?
It's often translated as a debt, but not in the way we typically think about it, Not like owing money or anything like that.
Okay, good to know. So what kind of debt are we talking about here?
Think of it more like an inherent obligation, the obligation that comes with existing within this cosmic order, within the flow of it. It's like we're all part of this intricate web of existence, and that comes with certain responsibilities.
So because we exist within this cosmic order, we have this like duty to uphold it, to maintain that harmony. It kind of reminds me of that saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Except here, it's more like with existence comes responsibility.
Exactly. And recognizing this inherent obligation, it's actually essential to living a fulfilling life, a life in accordance with dharma. It's about understanding that our actions, they have consequences, right? We're part of something so much bigger than ourselves.
So it isn't about guilt or burden or anything. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness
Yeah.
and acting in a way that honors that connection, right?
Precisely. It's about understanding that our lives, they're not just these isolated events. They're part of this vast, interconnected tapestry of existence, woven together by, you guessed it, Gita. And Sanskrit, with this emphasis on these interconnected layers of meaning, it might help us to see and understand these connections more clearly.
It really makes you rethink your whole perspective. It's not just about me and like my little bubble of experience. It's about recognizing that we're all connected, and our actions, they have these ripple effects, ripples that extend way beyond ourselves. This deep dive, it's been, well, pretty mind-blowing, to be honest. It's like we've pulled back the curtain on a whole new way of seeing things. Language, reality, our place in it all.
It's certainly been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Absolutely. But I have to ask, where do we go from here? How do we take these insights, these ancient concepts, and actually apply them to our modern lives, especially if we're not all about to become like Sanskrit scholars overnight?
Right. Right. Well, it's a question worth pondering. The text, it doesn't exactly offer a simple step-by-step guide or anything, but it does offer a pretty powerful suggestion, I think. It encourages us to cultivate a sense of like a deep awareness, a deep listening, not just to the words we're using, but to the subtle meanings beneath them.
So even if we don't speak Sanskrit fluently, we can still benefit from this idea of like paying attention, being more mindful of the language we use, and even the thoughts we allow to, take root.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that language, it's not just this neutral tool that we use. It has this incredible power to shape our thoughts, our beliefs, even our perception of reality itself. Maybe by exploring those deeper layers of language, even in our own languages, we might just unlock whole new levels of understanding.
It's a call to action then.
Yeah.
To approach language with more, with more consciousness, more intention, to think about not just what we're saying, but like the energy and meaning we're putting out into the world with our words. I think that's incredibly powerful.
It certainly is something to reflect on.
Well said. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the power of language. We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we have. And remember, even the smallest words, they can hold such profound meaning. And by paying attention, by listening deeply, maybe, just maybe, we can unlock a whole new understanding of ourselves and the universe all around us. Until next time.